Petersburg, what are some of the civil rights, or I'll say um, civil actions that you've taken regarding some of the disproportionate circumstances that are happening either to or in the black community?
Well, like I said, when I came here with the Yahoo movement back in 1994. Okay, and the Yahoo movement. Everybody, those of you who are familiar with Saint Pete, know what the Yahoo movement is about, and that's if you don't, it's a black revolutionary organization. Okay, we consider ourselves Africans. We consider ourselves carrying out the policies of Malcolm X, Black Panther Party, Marcus Garvey, your so-called non-traditional activists. Even the Nation of Islam, to a certain extent, was considered radical, but your mainstream core, Urban League, NAACP, we didn't really see them being effective from that standpoint. Okay, and not I'm not just totally criticizing them. I say that's just not where my motivations lie, because what we're trying to accomplish here is probably to overthrow the government and replace it with a government that's more beneficial and representative of the people. Now, when I say that, you say, "Oh, he wants to overthrow the government." No, that's what the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says that if we have a tyrannical government, it's the right of the populace to rise up and to overthrow that government if it's not representing the interests of the people. And that's what he did in the American Revolution in 1776, as a matter of fact. So what's going on here is, I've tried to join a lot of different organizations. I work with the Urban League. I work with the NAACP, the president of the Saint Pete Business League, also a member of that. And we didn't really do anything phenomenal. If you compare ourselves like to the Who movement, okay? They're a revolutionary organization. And that's what I think that people need to become more aware of in the communities, understand the different organizations out there. If you want to really get involved, actively, you want to get involved, then take a look at what, and I'm rather biased, I guess. I feel that the Who movement is action oriented. And it's just recent. A lot of you are familiar with the recent developments with the Who movement, saying that, I guess the accusation was something to the effect that they helped get Trump elected. They collaborated with the Russians to help Trump get elected. If you look at their material, they explain, no, that's not what we're about. We're not trying to help Trump get elected, and we're not trying to collaborate. We're creating alliances with anybody that is sympathetic to our cause. But we as black people are able to stand on our own and have our own, create our own alliance with whoever we want to. And those who are our enemy's enemy is our best friend. And that's an old saying from the mafia, a Godfather back in the 70s. My enemy's enemy is my friend. And I think that's a common practice throughout history that all races have done. We want to find out where our alliances are. And Russia and the communist countries have more of an allegiance to us than, of course, this so-called capitalist country in America. And I'm not for so much communism or capitalism. I'm for a fair and balanced society that's representative of all of us. And I think that we all need to become more active in our communities and stop letting the mainstream media tell us who is more representative of our community. Take Omali Yeshitela, okay? Like I said, I'm no longer in the organization. He's 80 years old. I'm 64 years old. I'm just about 20 years younger than him. He's my mentor back when I started coming to the movement back in the 80s. And what he taught me was more than any of these organizations taught me that I was in. It's theory and practice. And for you holy rollers out there, it's what it says in James, faith without works. So theory and practice is the same as faith without works. I don't care about you loving God or your political analogy of anything if you're not doing any work to prove your theory or your philosophy is really effective. Mike Tyson made a good statement. He said, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. Okay? most of us haven't been hit in the mouth because we just so busy talking, not doing anything. Once you get hit in the mouth, you start to see, okay, wait a minute now. This theory that I'm exercising, this theory that I've been studying, doesn't work, or it does work, and I need to go ahead and elevate it to another level. The point is that most of us don't get that far in life. We're too busy with just what I call participating in this wage slavery society. We just can't, go to work, retire broke, get a job at Walmart to supplement your income, and then you die of bad health. And that's not what we put here for. That's not what life's about. Even though I think that we think that is what it's about, because none of us constantly are studying and researching and things like that. And people that are against book reading, I have a severe problem with, because we say history has no attachment to what's happening presently. History just repeats itself unless we change those circumstances. But in order to change the circumstances, you have to be familiar from a historical perspective. Now, a lot of people know me because we took our children out of the public food system, the public school system, and we homeschooled. And we wanted to create like a African history curriculum. So we didn't want to start with Greece and Rome and saying, oh, that's the foundation of history or civilization, because it wasn't. Okay, it was Africa. Okay, we had great civilization in Africa while Europe and other places were living in the so-called Dark Ages. So civilization started there, and it didn't start in Greece and Rome. Matter of fact, the Greece and Rome and the Persians were learning from the ancient Africans. That's how they got their civilizations. But you have to do research in order to come to that conclusion. Okay, I read a lot of white nationalist ideology or information, just like I read black nationalists, because I'm considering myself a black nationalist or African nationalist. I look at my race as being what you want to call self-preservation. I don't want to say superior or supreme, which I really do think that, but I'm not gonna, that's not here for debate. That's my own personal feelings. But nevertheless, if you study history, and from an African perspective, study Sheikh Anta Diop, John Henry Clark, John Jackson, Professor Tony Martin, Professor Leonard Jeffries. Study some of the African historians, and then you can even look at some of these white Egyptologists and African study majors, and we all have come to the same conclusion that civilization did start in Africa, and that needs to be studied if you're going to study history from what you want to call it, a concrete or realistic perspective. And then we can help to derive conclusions or strategies of today based on what we've done historically. I was just having a discussion with a friend of ours, matter of fact, and he seems to think that history, you don't need to study history. You just have your personal feelings right now, and you make your decisions based off your current personal feelings. And I said, no, history is important. You have to study history, okay? Because history, if it's just repeating itself, then we can refine it. We can study history, and then we can refine it to current day. And that's what I think that we need to do now, is to, even with the Democratic and Republican Party, we don't need to be in either one of those, because all they do is just change their stripes every so many years. So you find that the Republicans were the liberal radicals at one time, and the Democrats were the conservatives, and vice versa. So anyway, I don't want to get too deeply involved in this unless you're studying it as well. We can have a better discussion for those who are studying this information.
So what led you to homeschool your children? First of all, how many children do you have?
Oh, tons of children. I've got 10 children altogether. And what led us to homeschooling was because I was with the WHO movement when we were leading that campaign. I had my son, Akwete Osoka, and I was the lead plaintiff in this case where we were saying racism of black students. Now go back and look at that case. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it was led by the WHO movement. It wasn't led by these other groups who have hijacked it now. But the WHO movement started this case out where it was my son, Akwete Osoka, and me being the parent. Most people familiar with me as William Crowley, but my African name, Ikemba Osoka, was the lead plaintiff in this lawsuit, which represented 12,000 black students in Pinellas County. And we're talking about the curriculum, and the inability of our children to excel in the school system, the current school system. So we said that we wanted to create the Marcus Garvey Academy. We explored other avenues when I was with the WHO movement, saying, okay, we have the Marcus Garvey Academy, or we have some type of schooling where we'll be in more control. And then what we did was became frustrated with it, because we would try to have meetings and programs, and we'd invite the black community out to help us with this lawsuit, since the judge had gave the green light for us to pursue the lawsuit, and it had some merit to it. But we couldn't get the black community out, the black parents. And so I kind of gave up and said, okay, here's what black parents need to do. If you're dissatisfied with the public school system, then let's create homeschooling co-ops, and let's homeschool our children. And let's start the curriculum from Africa and move forward, not from Greece and Rome. I'm not saying eradicate Greece and Rome, but I say that's not the starting point. The starting point would be Africa, and black children specifically need to know this, that we have a rich and valuable culture, and we were the forerunners for civilization for all the races, all the cultures. So that's what we want to do with the homeschooling, and take our children out of this. That's the conclusion that we came to after not being successful with the lawsuit, getting black parents and more community involvement. So we went out alone and created our homeschooling. And we homeschooled our children, myself and my wife at the time, which was Veronica, Amina, Crowley, and we did pretty well. And then we once we got into the homeschooling, we started looking into the monetary history of this country. That's where things got really, how would you say it, really controversial, because this government, they don't want you to try to expose or stand up against anything that they're in support of. They want to tell you who your enemies are. They want to tell you how to live. They want to tell you, define everything for you. But you study the monetary history of this country, and you'll find out Article 1, Section 8 and 10 of the Constitution, the Federal Reserve banking system is in gross violation of that. And that's one of the primary reasons why we're living as, what you want to call it, I mean, most of us are struggling out there, okay, living paycheck to paycheck. And that's not what we were put here for, but that's the system that we endorse. So, yes, the Federal Reserve banking system is a violation of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8 and 10, but we are participating in it. The biggest problem and the contradictions to me in society is our participation in it. We the people. We are participating in our own enslavement. And so the physical slavery, which was lightweight compared to the slavery that we're in now, this is called wage slavery, okay? We're going to work, we're paying taxes. I mean, we're paying up in brackets of 35 to 40% in taxes, and we're not reaping the benefits, because what we're doing, we're paying these taxes to give to this government to go participate in clandestine activities around the world, uprooting governments. Ghadafi comes to mind for Libya. I mean, that was brutal. What they did, but we did it. Okay, you can say the government did it, but you're funding the government, so we are just as responsible for what happened to Ghadafi, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Africa, with even Ibrahim Traore, which is carrying on from where Thomas Sankara started back in the 80s, okay? And then he had forerunners to him. But the point is, we the people are the problem. And there's no victims. We have caused this because we keep financing a system that is counterproductive. It's working for somebody, it's just not working for us. But you have to do your homework. Just me sitting up here talking about it, and you're not going back and doing the necessary research to say, okay, yes, I agree with you, or no, I don't. Because everything I'm telling you right now is a lie until you verify it for yourself. Yeah, I've done the research, and these are the conclusions that I came up with. But people out there are going to have to start studying and researching the past in order to understand what the contradictions are of the present, and then how we can eradicate these contradictions. So I won't go on a tangent about it, but the point is that I think people really should become more active from a historical perspective, and then get more involved in the current day, and don't sit up and play the victim. We're not victims. we created our own victimhood. If we're victims, we created this. And we've got to learn that until we change, nothing's going to change until we change.